Hey guys, let's take a look through the Module 5 assignments. So the first assignment is to read Chapters 7 and 8 in Mobile Learning Mindset. Chapter 7 is the assessment chapter, so you'll want to for sure read that one before you kind of start some of these assignments for this week. So in Chapter 7, we're reading about assessments, and in this module, we're going to kind of really dig into using technology to assess student learning. So the first assignment you're going to do is create a digital pre-assessment for your lesson or your unit that you're creating. So you're creating a unit that's either personalized, gamified, blended learning, UDL, whichever way you chose, you're creating that, and you need to create a pre-assessment that's digital. So what could they do to assess their learning on all the standards that you're planning on covering in your lesson unit that you are creating? So you're going to create that. You can create it in a learning management system, in a Google form, in a Kahoot, whatever you choose, but just a quick snapshot of what they know before they were to start your unit. And then you're going to take that information, and that's going to help you decide kind of where they need to start. Like, oh, you actually understood the first standard, so you can skip to this section where it's the second standard. Okay, so that would be kind of the purpose of doing that pre-assessment. So you're going to create that. You're just going to put it in that unit, which you're going to be turning into me at the end of the class and kind of presenting to all of us at the end of the class. So create that digital pre-assessment and have it in that unit plan so that we can see that in a little over a week. Or 2 weeks, I guess. So that's due July 8th. Then you're going to choose a different formative assessment tool. And this is where I kind of want you to get creative on how students can demonstrate their learning without just taking a test. So how else could they demonstrate their learning? So think up some formative assessment tools. That doesn't mean it still can't be on multiple choice things and stuff, but I would say Kahoot would be different than just taking a test because it's more interactive. So pick a formative assessment tool. You're going to create a quick screencast, just like I'm doing right now, explaining how the tool works. It doesn't need to be very long. Just kind of show us the tool and then tell us kind of like some of the benefits of the tool. And then you are going to post that link in this formative assessment tools Google Doc, as well as the name of your tool. You could link out to where the tool is located, your name, and then a description with your screencast link. You need to do one of those. And then something to be thinking and adding to your unit and your lesson plan is 2 ways when you present your unit lesson plan stuff at the end of the class. I'm going to look for the pre-assessment. I'm going to look for whatever pathway you chose, gamified, personalized, that type of stuff throughout. And then I'm going to look in the end for multiple ways to assess learners where students aren't just taking a test. So I want you to add at least 2 ways that students can demonstrate their learning. So they're going to make a video and here's some of the parameters. Or they're going to create an infographic demonstrating that they understand this topic. Okay, so think of 2 ways that you can put at the end of your unit, or for some of you guys are doing larger units and some of you guys are just very honing in on a lesson. So that's why I keep saying lesson or unit. I'm fine either way. So how are you going to assess them at the end of that lesson or unit? So you need at least 2 ways that you can assess them that are technology based. Now, I would suggest that you could add a 3rd way that's not technology based, but obviously I'm not going to grade that as part of this class. But I would strongly suggest that you have another option for students who don't like to use technology to assess their learning as well. You should have add 3 tools to the Google One-to-One Tools presentation. So I will check that on July 8th that you have added 3 tools. And then kind of assignment number 5 is actually part of your discussion board and part of your post-pandemic presentation that you're putting together. Kind of really truly to understand where our students are when they come back in the fall, we're going to need to assess multiple things. And when I say assess multiple things, I'm not saying we're sitting the kids down to do these paper and pencil or computer-based assessments that are taking them hours so that we can see where they are. I'm talking about how can we assess their social emotional learning? How can we assess what type of learner they are? How can we assess how they feel like they learn best? They've been exposed to so many different learning styles in the last year and a half that some of them have found they like to learn other ways than direct instruction. So how do we figure that out? on top of that, how are we going to assess where they are academically? For some of you guys, you had your students in front of you last year all the time, so you probably still feel like you know them academically. For some of you, you hardly saw your students. They were distance learning, and you feel like you really don't know what they learned and what they didn't learn. So you're really going to assess that at the beginning of the year. So how can we assess that? And that's going to be part of your discussion board, as well as kind of putting that into your presentation. So the discussion board number 2 is exactly that. Let's have a discussion about how can we assess these learners without it feeling like they're coming into the classroom and we're constantly testing them, because that obviously is not what we want to do either. So let's have a discussion on how we could assess them. And then after you kind of participate in the discussion board and you kind of get some good ideas from your peers, you're going to add that to kind of your post-pandemic, whatever you're putting together, presentation or paper or whatever you're writing, on what your plan is for the fall. What are you going to do with your students? Are you going to give them an interest survey? Are you going to do some type of well-being checklist to kind of see how they're feeling social emotionally? What are we going to do? So that's assignment number 5. Then for discussion boards, you have 2 discussion boards. The first one is on the reading on chapter 8. Carl Hooker talks about the 4 components that we need to consider when implementing successful one-to-one environments. So you're going to read about those and then just answer some questions in the discussion board. And discussion board number 2 is that discussion on how are we going to assess our students in the fall to really find out where they're at. And then the learning team project for this week is the one that we started last week, where you're creating something as a learning team about the 4 C's, 5 C's, 6 C's, whichever one you want to use. You're going to actually turn those in module 6. So the next module, you will turn it in the discussion board, like at the beginning of the module, so that other learning teams can see yours and comment on them. So that will be due at the beginning of module 6, which I will open up on July 6th, but you would technically have probably until like July 8th to turn that in. And you'll put it in there as a group, and then you can comment on each other's. Those are the assignments for this week. If you need any help or support, or you feel like it would be beneficial to meet with me via Zoom, I would love to meet with you. I can talk through with you on how to use assessments, what assessments might work for what you're trying to assess. We can also talk through your lesson or unit you're creating. I would love to help you figure out how you can create that, how you can use technology in that. So if you feel like it would be beneficial to do an office hour, please send me an email and I'd be more than willing to meet with you and we can just talk through it. I love doing that. I get really excited to talk with teachers about what they're thinking and what they're teaching, and we can brainstorm ideas together. So don't hesitate to reach out if you need any help. Otherwise, have a great week, and I look forward to seeing what you post in the discussion board.